Well, guys, the news is in. The Fed has released what the interest rate hike is going to be, and, well, it may be a little bittersweet for some people. So, we were considering two different possibilities, or really three. On the lower end, we were thinking maybe it would be a 50-point base hike, or we were considering on the high end, it would be maybe 100. Instead, it ended up being 75. And we're starting to see markets react in interesting ways, and so that raises two questions. One, have we hit a bottom? And two, if we have not hit a bottom, is it going to get significantly worse? So what I want to talk about first is, have we hit a bottom or not? Are the markets going to continue to fall, or have we bottomed out and this is going to be a good time to buy the dip? So what I'll do is just share what I'm looking at on my screen here. Now keep in mind, I primarily talk about cryptocurrency. I've been in the stock market, I've been into stocks as well, so I do keep an eye on that. But what I really want to talk about is crypto today. What I'm looking at is Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's the market leader, so whenever we want to see what the market's going to do, whenever we want to get a good idea of what the altcoins might do, we're talking about Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Dogecoin, so on and so forth. We're really just talking about the high cap coins here. We want to look at Bitcoin and figure out what is it going to do, because we know that the other coins tend to follow Bitcoin's lead. So as we take a look at this chart here, we can see that up until really today, Bitcoin has been on a very, very long, lengthy descent. And I'm just zooming out here, just trying to get to the beginning of the descent here. And it's taken a while, but you'll notice it really started from up here. But more recently, as we got closer and closer to this meeting that occurred today, the falls just started to get steeper and steeper. Massive drops, consolidate for a little bit, huge drop, huge drop. So now we have the question, is there going to be another huge drop, or have we hit a bottom? Well, I think there's a couple things that we need to consider, and it starts with the basis hike and exactly what it means for the market overall, the stock market and the crypto market potentially. So the whole reason that interest rates are being increased is because inflation has kind of gotten out of control, and now the Fed is trying to get a handle on that. So what they did is they increased the interest rates by a significant percentage so that, it's more difficult to just obtain money. And so that means that there's going to be less people wanting to borrow, which means there's going to be less people doing business. And so then the supply and demand ratio starts to change up a little bit. And what you end up having is you have the same amount of supply and you have less demand from buyers, less demand from people wanting to do business. And so it kind of forces the market to crash a little bit, because then people's business starts to go down and it results in people needing to basically be more competitive in order to get business. So you start to see things like prices start to go down and so on and so forth. And in effect, you almost can spark a recession doing something like that if you're too aggressive. But that's kind of what the Fed's trying to do right now. They're kind of on the border of being aggressive. They're treading the thin line of being super aggressive and sparking an entire recession. And it still may happen, but it could be what needs to happen, because if you've looked at the housing market, if you've looked at the stock market and just the price of many things, it's getting a little out of control, and I'm sure you could agree with me. But regardless, just taking a look back at the chart here. So Bitcoin was on its way down, and I'm going to throw up a couple indicators here just so we can get a better idea of what's going on. And I see I'm not logged into my Webull account here, so actually these indicators aren't mine, so we won't use those. But basically, we were looking at Bitcoin support at 20,000. If you just take a look, even though I don't have the EMAs here, which I wanted, if you just take a look to the left, you could see that there was a point here in December of 2020 where we hit this level right here at about 19.5, 20,000 strong resistance. We hit it multiple times, and that's where we stalled out before there was a pullback and we broke above it and did this whole bullish run here. So obviously this becomes a relatively strong level of support now that we're on the top side on our way down. So, and there were other levels too, just because if you looked at that area, you could see there's support here, there's support here, there's now support here. So what I discussed in our last stream was that on the way down, it was very unlikely that Bitcoin was going to blow through 20K and go to like 15 or 10, right? It was probably going to stop at around 20, maybe go 19, maybe 18, but there's just so much support there that it's going to have to get slowed down in that area on the way down. And so that's exactly what happened. And it paused right at the bottom here of 20,000 during this meeting. And as we can see, after the meeting occurred, we almost immediately got a relatively good bounce here. So we went from 20,000 right on up to 22,500. And though it looks small on the daily time frame, if we were to drop the time frame down, you can actually get a better perspective. It almost looks like a bit of a reversal off of support here. So isn't that good? And actually, I was zoomed out too far. This number is actually $20,073. That was almost a perfect touch at 20K support there. So good stuff. Good to see. But anyway, the question lingers, is this the bottom, or are we going to keep going down? Well, guys, what I want to say is that this is a bottom. This is a bottom, but this is not necessarily the bottom. And so let me explain. So the reason we're getting a bit of a bounce here in the crypto space and in the stock market space is because even though the fact that a recession could be coming is bad news, even though interest rates going up and then, the inevitable decline in business after that, increasing, even though that's going to happen, it's still overall good news because it means that the Fed is trying to correct the markets and that eventually business will boom again. People will be able to afford things and it's just good overall. So people start to feel positive about that. So that's why I'm not surprised at all that from that, even though it was kind of bad news, like I said, because, recession and all that, yeah, short term kind of bad, but long term good. So, people start to get a little positive about what was announced here. Good that they're putting forth effort and hopefully we'll see some results. But in my opinion, it's still short term bad news because until things correct and until we get to the point where the interest rate decline, which is inevitable once the recession starts to kick in, right? Things will start to trail back down as we try to reel in new buyers, new consumers. Until we get to that point where the recession or the decline starts to bottom out, we're going to start to see an increase in negative things, less business, unemployment starting to increase, and other things like that, which could result in fear in the market. And I'm talking the crypto space and the stock market. And we could see a little bit more of a decline based off of that fear. So I think this is just a temporary bounce and that we could actually see another curl back down. Now, will that curl back down be strong enough to break us through on the crypto side, at least the 20,000 level of support? I'm not too sure. I think that the flush down to 20K was actually pretty good. I think that 20K is a really, really strong level of support, and I don't really think that level needs to break in order for people to feel like they got in at a good price. And the reason why I'm really saying that is because, during these swings, you're always going to have doubters. Down here, you're going to have people that are thinking that the price deserves to be up here, and when we're up here, we have people thinking the price deserves to be down here. And so when you've got, for example, we're high and you've got all these bears thinking that the price deserves to crash, that doesn't mean that they hate Bitcoin. What it means is they think that the asset is overvalued and they tend to look for a super cheap level, a super cheap price that they would be willing to buy into. But if you can hit that price target and they buy in, now you don't just have the bullish people buying in, but you also have the bears now assisting the bulls. And so now you've got two parties, both sides, all on the same page, and that's usually what you need, or that combination at least could spark a bull run because all the bears are now bulls as well. So if we just take a look at the chart, 20K is actually a really, really reasonable level of support here. And the only level lower than that you could say that bears might be waiting to get in is really going to be at this previous level here, because resistance here or support here and here, very obvious level at 20K. And there's just, maybe some room to say we could maybe go down to 15-ish. All right, but that's only $5,000 cheaper per Bitcoin. So you'd have to be pretty greedy to want to wait for just $5,000 on Bitcoin when we're already down about 50K from the previous high, right? Especially if you think that's as low as it's really going to go. So in my opinion, I think this 20,000 area is pretty much near the bottom. Now, I think we've hit a bottom here. I would not be surprised if we do a little bit of bouncing and come back down to 20-ish, but I don't really feel like we're going to crash too much further. And what that means is that Ethereum right here at about $1,000 per coin. If let's pull up Ether, and let's just talk about potential price targets and what good prices would be to buy at. All right, so let's pull it up here. Ethereum, as you can see, was just at 1,000 per token, 1,075. It bounced up to 1,200. I think this range could be a potential bottom. Really nice reversal signal here by this candle. And even if we crash further, I don't think Ethereum goes very much lower. So I still think ETH is a good buy. We look at other things like Cardano. Now, I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised by Cardano, because if you look, despite all the negativity, Cardano's chart, ADA's chart, does not look like the other cryptos. If you notice, on Bitcoin, on Dogecoin, on Ethereum, there was some massive, just continuous sell-offs, but here you could see that we've been leveled out at this general area for a while now. People have not felt the same in the ADA network. So we actually bottomed out at 45, and we just kept sitting at 45, 45, 45, and now we're up to 53. If I'm looking at a play that I think is going to be the safest play to ride back up, if this is the actual bottom and Bitcoin's going to go back to 30, 40K pretty soon, if I want an altcoin that I think is going to safely give me the highest percentage gains, I'm feeling pretty confident in ADA just because of the strength that it's shown so far at these low levels. It has not been willing to crash as hard, which means to me there are potentially more supporters, more buyers, more bullish people in the ADA camp right now than maybe anywhere else that's in the top 10 market cap. So that's good to see. And then if we were to pull up something like Dogecoin, which we'll do right now, you can see Dogecoin had a much steeper fall, but Dogecoin still, if you looked at CoinMarketCap and look at the 7-day percentage change, Dogecoin's down 23%, Bitcoin's down 25%. So Bitcoin still fell harder than Dogecoin, but Dogecoin did have quite a tumble compared to something like Cardano, which is only down about 16% in the last 7 days, or XRP, which is down even less, 14%, or Solana, which is down even less than that, or, Polkadot, which you know where I'm going with this, down even less than that. But Ethereum did have a nasty crash. So, if we're talking about steals, absolute buys that I would take a look at, again, Ethereum, pretty trusted, ETH2 hype, super cheap price, 10K price targets. This is going to be a nice 10X opportunity if you buy and hold long term, in my opinion. Dogecoin's a little rocky. We'll talk about that in another video, but I don't ever mind me some Doge, but even better, something like Cardano right now I think is a really good buy, because we'll definitely see Cardano back to $1, $1.50, and so on and so forth pretty soon, right? So I'm feeling pretty confident about that. That being said though, guys, even though we have these reasons to feel confident that, crypto might not go too much further down, we have to entertain the possibility that it could happen. There's, it's the moment right after the announcement, lots of fluctuating emotions, and all it takes is for people to feel overall negative and really start to say, wait, that really means that in the next couple months things could get nasty. Maybe I don't want to be in the market right now. If enough people say that, enough people could sell, and we could really see some more selling off in the stock and crypto markets, and maybe 20K Bitcoin will not be the bottom, and maybe we will see lower prices. So that being said, my advice is going to be to buy some at what could be the final dip here, but don't all in. Put some in here, a good amount, but then just wait and be patient and save some, sit on the sidelines for a little bit, see if the market starts to pull back even further. And that way, if we do get a crazier dip, like 10 to 15K Bitcoin, which would be, 500 to 750 Ethereum, Dogecoin 2 or 3 cents, Cardano down somewhere in the 30s, maybe even high 20s, you can load the boat there and then ride the wave back up. Now, this brings me to my final point, and it's going to be, what other reasons could there be for something like the market, Bitcoin, or any of the other coins here in the crypto space to crash further? And the thing there is going to be the fact that the Fed still has, I believe, 4 more of these meetings that are due to be held throughout the rest of the year. And the way, from what I've heard, there are plans to continue increasing interest rates in each of these meetings so far. Some of the speculation that I've heard is that they could increase it by another 1.75%. Now, 7.75% was aggressive today, and that means that in another meeting they do, maybe the next one they do another 0.75, and then after that they do 50 and 50, all by the end of the year. So, in my opinion, things are not going to get much better anytime soon. The housing market is probably going to go down significantly within these next 6 months, and a lot of other things are probably going to go down. So Even though I think we're at a nice bottom here and it's a great time to buy, I did in fact buy some here today. I didn't just say it and tell you guys that you should do it, but I did it myself. Even though I feel that this is a great dip to buy at, just in case, I do have some concerns that just because it's not over yet, we might see a bounce here, but we might go down a little bit further. All right, so just please be careful and trade accordingly. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you all for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next video.